Frankly Speaking, Roof Cam is brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to our last guest, Sheena Rossetti, for being on the program. And now in the studio, by popular demand, so many people are reaching out and saying, I haven't had John. Matthew, thanks so much for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
First of all, congratulations on running.
Thank you.
How's the process been so far? What do you think?
Interesting.
Okay.
Very fast.
That's a very political answer for you. Interesting it is, right? Yeah, can you believe it? Early voting is, what, the 26th?
Yeah.
You're almost here.
My kids are already sick of going to stuff with me.
Well, they won't have to do it if you win for 10 years. That's what we got to remind people. This is a judicial interview, so it is a little bit more cut and dry. I can't ask too many specific questions, so let's start with the easy one. Your background.
So, born and raised in Elmira. I went to law school down in Jacksonville, Florida, and I was one of about 10 to 15 students that graduated with a job. My job was back here at the Chemung County Public Advocate's Office, where I worked with Richard W. Rich for about 4 years.
Oh, okay. So let's talk about your experience then, because what makes you, in your mind, suited for this position of family court judge?
Experience, period. I'm in family court every day.
Okay.
I average, going back 15 years, I've been fully licensed since January of 2012.
Okay.
But I was one of the last group of students that had a temporary practice order, so I could actually practice law before I actually fully graduated and passed the bar.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I have averaged about 2 family court trials a week for the past 15 years.
Wow. So what's it like being on the ground in the family court? I mean, some of us, some people have had experience with it, some people haven't. So what, and why is this, I guess, position so important?
So the position's so important because of the far-reaching implications you have. I mean, you're deciding custody decisions, you're deciding abuse and neglect decisions, and then you're also handling matters like juvenile delinquency petitions, dealing with a lot of young youth at a very developmental and important stage in their lives. So it's a vital necessity in the county to foster and help promote services and chances.
Sure. And what made you originally get into family court law? Why was that your choice?
My family life.
Yeah.
So growing up, I grew up, my parents divorced when I was 4.
Okay.
I know the effects that it has on people. And then likewise, the past year and a half, personally, I've been going through a divorce, and we've worked very hard and work together to not have to utilize a very overburdened and overrun system.
I'm glad you mentioned overburdened. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But what was it? Because you're obviously a busy person. Why did you decide to run for this position?
We got a new position when the legislature passed it back December last year.
Okay.
And it was a very difficult decision because even though I'm a solo practitioner, I'm the only attorney in my office, I handle about 300 cases at a time.
Wow.
50% of those are in divorce matrimonial, and then I'd say between 50 and 40 are criminal defense. You get the most, I don't want to say joy, but you get the most satisfaction out of handling family court cases because you meet people of all varieties. I mean, I've represented homeless individuals in family court. I've represented indigent. I've represented executives from Corning, corrections officers, police officers. You really get to meet and make friends and become friends with everybody.
Sure. And you mentioned it's a little different because of this new position. Could you explain the race for people? I know we've had your opponents on. It's one of those things where it could get glanced over if you're not paying attention, right?
Exactly.
I'm sure you've experienced that.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, what, family court? You have to run for that? So it's a 10-year term for Chemung County Family Court, and it's only family court. The position you vote, you'll have the option to vote twice. The top 2 vote getters will then get in and have the job.
For 10 years. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because for those 10 years, you can't speak on politics, but now you have to speak on politics.
We get about 9 months to a year every 10 years to jump right in and go full throttle.
That's so wild. So how's the campaign going so far?
Great.
Yeah.
A lot of positive feedback. I love talking and meeting people. That's been the most fun thing about this. Yeah. I spent 9 hours in a dunk tank at the Big Flats Community Days event, only taking a break to put my daughter on my back and run through the parade and hand out candy to everybody. So it's been a very, very fun time.
And when you talk to voters, other than the confusion surrounding the race, what do they normally say to you?
They're asking how it applies to them, because a lot of people luckily and thankfully, don't have to encounter the family court system. And a lot of people don't realize that it's largely tax funded. When you're talking about assigned counsel rates and things like that, that just went up from $75 an hour to $158 about 2-3 years ago. Okay. And that's all taxpayer funds. So, wow. Looking at who's eligible, who's not eligible, who really needs an attorney, who doesn't, which is everybody. Sure. Everybody needs an attorney. Right. And that's really how you can start to foster conversations with people who don't have to go to family court ever.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, what are you focused on if you're successful come November 5th? What are your main focuses going to be for Chemung County Family Court?
The system right now is at a critical breaking point. Mm-hmm. In Chemung County, we have 2 publicly assigned offices, the public defender and public advocate. They are severely understaffed. For a while there was not really an order, but the district judge said, you can't assign cases to this office anymore, which then brought it out to all the private attorneys.
Sure.
I'm one of there's 3 of us mm-hmm. that take those assigned cases. Yeah. So really trying to bring in more practitioners from out of town or from the surrounding areas, and then also reviewing cases and trying to settle cases, being more of an involved judge at first appearances and whatnot, sure. to lower the numbers, to really give cases time. I mean, a typical family court case, especially like an abuse or neglect where your child might have been removed into foster care, mm-hmm. takes upwards of a year.
Wow.
And it shouldn't be like that.
And what would your workload look like? Now that there's 2 positions, it's probably made things a little easier, is the hopes, right? So what's the workload going to be like?
We have no idea.
Okay.
Typical Office of Court Administration. Yeah. So we also have 2 county court judges, okay. Judge Rich and Judge Campanella, and they hear family court matters too. So what we're hearing is the 2 county court judges would get a majority of the family court cases, and then they would take overflow and things like that.
Okay. So we were talking about the campaign and how it's on. We're talking about Chemung County Family Court Judge. How's the endorsements? Has that been something that you've received?
Yes. So currently I am the only candidate out of the 3 of us that has been publicly endorsed by any unions. Okay. I was endorsed by the Chemung County Correctional Officers Association. Today, this afternoon, I go to meet with the Elmira Teachers Association. Okay. What we've been hearing a lot is from almost every other association you can imagine, PBAs, things like that. They're not, again, going to the point of
full endorsement.
Yeah, they're not. Nobody's really talking about the race and things like that.
No, and you raise such a good point, and that's why one of the goals for this program has always been to have all the candidates on. That becomes a little overwhelming, but there's such a lack of information, I think, because so many people are laser-like focused on the big one, right? The White House.
Yes.
So have you found that to be an uphill battle?
Yeah. It's really hard getting any media coverage to the races. Mm-hmm. Nobody really wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to give, and it's not just me, it's the other 2 candidates as well.
I'm sure.
The time of day, and it's just bizarre.
Well, I think it's because, they'll see you at the parades and like that, but they think, almost like you said, I didn't even know you had to run for family court.
Right.
Right? So there's already that kind of lack of knowledge on it. And that's why I'm so glad that you and your opponents could be on the program, and I know we're going to do it again. So has campaigning been any kind of surprise for you, or did you expect it to be the way it is?
Getting the signatures was the hardest part.
Petition,
because they moved it into, we're still in upstate New York. They moved it to the middle of winter.
It's ridiculous.
And that was the worry part. But the biggest thing that I've taken away from campaigning in general mm-hmm. is talking with people. Sure. If you really talk to somebody and get to know them, you know what's important to them, and you get a little tiny sliver of insight into their life.
Sure.
And then to have a position where you would then take that tiny sliver to make a monumental decision is a sense of responsibility that I hope to cherish and to have.
Well, and that's a nice part of the petition process, though it is miserable. No one wants to answer their door anymore. I'll say it. You don't have to say it. I don't want to get you in trouble. But it is a tough process, but it gives you that other opportunity to speak with the people. And like you said, to your point, you learn things that are a major concern for people that you may never have even known about. Yeah. It's a really unique way of doing things. It's not the most fun, but it's very important. So in closing, how can people find out more?
So website's going live today, BuzzettiForJudge.com. My Facebook page, in my office. I've been encouraging everybody, call, talk with me, set up an appointment, find me. Most of the days, almost every day, you can find me in Chemung County Family Court or one of the surrounding areas. But stop me on the street, talk to me, stop me at Wegmans. I'm always willing to lend an ear and have a discussion.
So in closing, what would you say to voters before they either early vote or head to the booth?
Please, and I can't emphasize this enough, look at the experience. If we talk about experience from 26 years ago or 23 years ago, that's like me getting on this show and saying, Frank, back then I was getting my Eagle Scout award, right? You really need to focus at who's in the court and who's not in the court. I'm there. I had a family court trial yesterday morning, and then I went over to the other courthouse to pick a jury for a criminal defense case. I have 2 more family court trials this week. Talk to people who have been through the system or work in the system, the court officers. They know who's there. They know who's proficient and who isn't. Really focus on the experience and who hasn't and who doesn't. You can also go online to eCourts or nycourts.gov and type in a name. And you can type in that name and see all their cases they're handling in the state. Wow. You'd be surprised to know that some people have upwards of 20 pages and other people have one single entry. And that's really where the experience comes down to.
Well, Matthew, thanks so much for being on the show. I know we're going to do this again before, so I don't have to wish you good luck yet.
Well, thank you, sir. I'll see you soon.
All right. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.